What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another live stream. We started to try and do these on Wednesday nights because, you know what, figure it's a good time to talk to you guys, kind of a midweek recap. Obviously, there is no game for the Ravens this week. It's on bye. Joshua may not be able to make it today, but there's a chance he does end up showing up. So if he does show up, I'll obviously add him into the stream, but I'm going to talk about a few things today, and as always, talk about whatever you guys comment. I'll probably at some point talk about Cedric Ogbuehi. I honestly have no idea how to pronounce his name. Ravens signed him, offensive tackle from the Seattle Seahawks, signed to the practice squad. He's expected to be elevated to the 53-man roster. I see Howard's in here. How you doing, Howard? It's time to trust the bank. It's always time to trust the bank. Chris Reed says, "What's up, TTB? Been hearing about Allen Robinson, and I personally do not like it. I would like your guys' opinion on this." And then Jimbo Ross says, "Sup? What's going on, Jimbo?" Yeah, I can definitely talk about Allen Robinson. I'm a big fan of Allen Robinson. And all of a sudden this year, this is really weird. Normally the captions don't really block the face, so I got to sit up a little bit higher to do this. But Allen Robinson this year has really struggled in Chicago, and he's coming on. I mean, he got tagged by the Chicago Bears this year because they were expecting him to be able to come in and be that dominant wide receiver that he's been in years past, not only for the Bears, but also for the Jaguars. But this year, he has not been that guy. And I'm going to pull up his stats really quickly, but it's like staggering how much worse he's been this year in comparison to previous years, because for years, he had been one of the most underrated receivers in the league. And then this year, he's come in and like his yards per game. And it's like a lot of people may look at it and be like, oh, yeah, but they have Justin Fields. They have young quarterbacks. This dude was playing with like rookie Mitch Trubisky. This guy was playing with Blake Bortles. This guy has never been a wide receiver playing with elite quarterback play. So for him to not be going out there and putting up the numbers that we would typically expect out of a guy of Allen Robinson's, ability, it's kind of crazy. I mean, you look at his games, the most yards he's had in a game this year is 63 yards. He has one total touchdown. That is not Allen Robinson numbers. If you want to look at 22, I mean, he put up, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's at 250 yards through 7 games right now. I mean, this guy is, I would agree with what you're saying, Chris Reed. If you told me before the season, yeah, Ravens should go after. I was all for the Ravens trying to sign Allen Robinson in free agency. But now it's kind of fortunately the Ravens didn't end up getting him. He's also making a ton of money. So I don't think it's worth it at all. But yeah, and I see Brandon says, no, we don't need any more wide receivers. That's absolutely correct. How you doing, Brandon? Welcome into the stream. Also, welcome, Yolanda. How you doing? Yeah, the receivers is not the issue on this team. Now, obviously, the biggest thing is offensive line. And I made the video yesterday or 2 days ago. I think it was yesterday. And I talk about the Ravens possibly trading for a running back. And I'll maybe talk about that a little bit today. But I got a lot of comments and they were saying like, no, the Ravens need to go after the offensive line. Yes, I would agree with that. However, offensive line is not something that is easily traded for. And I see Howard brings up pass rusher. Absolutely. I think pass rusher is probably the biggest thing that they should trade for, that they can trade for. I would say offensive line, but I don't think they can trade for offensive line. Pass rusher or corner or linebacker are kind of the biggest things, in my opinion, that they need. And they don't have a ton of money. So it comes down to what they're going to actually be able to trade and get at those positions for, $1 million a year or less. So unless they're getting rookies or really old veterans, they're not going to be able to get players of the quality that they need to be able to improve upon their team. So, that's why running back is a position that's actually possible to trade for, because there's a lot of running backs that make very little money that are actually quality players. So that's why that's a position that gets brought up a lot. Most pass rushers, if they're good, a team won't trade them. And 2, if they're on a cheap deal, they're probably not going to be very good. But I see Javal says, absolutely, O-line is the biggest issue, but you're right, people aren't giving up good linemen. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. That's the toughest part. I believe it was the Panthers general manager came out and said, like, yeah, we've reached out to teams. They won't even trade backups. That's very difficult. If teams aren't trading you backups, like being able to build up the offensive line is not going to be able to happen in terms of bringing in new players. Now, the Ravens could shift up their coaching scheme. They could bring in a new coach. They could do that type of thing to try and fix the O-line, but they're not going to be able to go out there and pull off some crazy trade and get, oh, wow, look at this. Here's a great offensive tackle the Ravens can play. That's not going to be able to happen. And I see Joshua's showing up, so I'm going to add him into the stream real quick. Let's see here. How you doing, Joshua?
Doing pretty good. What's going on, Ravens family? How y'all doing? What we talking about?
Talking about the sad things and not being able to trade for an offensive lineman.
Oh.
What positions to target. And I see Brandon Tillman says they need to go after a veteran middle linebacker.
I mean, how much more veteran can we go? Honestly, I feel like Josh Bynes is answering the call for us right now. He is actually like the Darryl Smith, in my opinion. I mean, we don't need a real big name. We just need somebody that's sound, fundamental, and that can really go out there and get the job done. So, I mean, I'm fine with Josh Bynes really controlling that middle. It seemed like things were moving a little bit more fluid, even though, outside of the tackling, but as far as the adjustments and stuff like that, he knew how to make those calls.
Yeah, and I think also if the Ravens brought in another linebacker, it would completely take away from Patrick Queen and those guys' development and Malik Harrison's development.
Yeah.
I like having the one veteran linebacker. So unless they decided to get rid of Josh Bynes, which I don't recommend whatsoever, I think the Ravens should keep him. He's been playing really solid for them. Linebacker is going to be tough unless they decided to go after a linebacker that they felt like was their future.
Mm-hmm.
For example, somebody like a Miles Jack or somebody like that, where they looked at it and they said, you know what? That guy we can build around. He can just be our franchise middle linebacker, and potentially trading Patrick Queen in some sort of deal like that. Now, I think that's very unrealistic. I don't think that would happen, but that would be the only way I could see the Ravens trading for a linebacker, would be as if Patrick Queen was involved in the trade. And the Ravens would probably actually get good value. They'd probably get a pick back in addition to a guy like a Miles Jack. But like, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think the linebacker's gonna happen.
That's a big trigger to pull. Honestly, they invested so much in that pick and getting Patrick Queen. And I want to say that they're feeling like the investment is what's the word, is going negative, or is going in the wrong direction. He needs a little bit more work. We're trying to put him in the Mike position, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he was really a Mike linebacker. I think Malik may have been more of a Mike linebacker at Ohio State, but PQ he really flourishes off the weak side, weak inside linebacker. So I mean, it's definitely good. We'll definitely look forward to seeing the development towards the end of the season, how the progression shows. But I mean, shout outs to PQ for taking the initiative and owning to his mistakes. That shows that he really wants to be correct his miscues. So I mean, that shows leadership, especially in a young guy.
Do you think that comes from Lamar? Do you think Lamar is having that rub off effect on the rest of the team and like taking that type of personal, hey, I gotta be better? Because obviously Lamar does that all the time. Do you think he's rubbing off on Patrick Queen and the rest of the team with that type of attitude?
Well, Marlon Humphrey came to him too, so that's a big deal as well. But I definitely feel like that could have played a part. But at the same time, you can own to your mistakes. But the thing is, do you correct your actions? So we definitely have to see that when we play against Minnesota, if the actions have been corrected.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. So James Robinson's obviously in the thumbnail. If we could get James Robinson in a corner that is serviceable, we would be Super Bowl contenders without a doubt. Yeah, let's talk about James Robinson. He's actually a potential trade candidate. Now, obviously, the dude's a stud. Undrafted free agent, comes into Jacksonville last year as a rookie, was the best rookie running back maybe in the NFL last year, or at least the most productive rookie running back in the NFL with the opportunities that he got. Right. I would still like to say JK was better, but then they go out this year and they draft a first-round running back in Travis Etienne, one of the premier running backs in this draft class. In my opinion, the best running back in this draft class over Najee Harris. And I'm a huge Najee Harris fan, but with that type of draft pick, is that saying like they kind of wanted to move away from James Robinson? Could they trade? I mean, if they were willing to trade, because they're clearly tanking. I don't think anybody thinks Jacksonville is trying to make some push. If they could get a good draft pick, if the Ravens send over a 4th-round pick, heck, even 2 4th-round picks. The Ravens got 10 picks next year. I think 4 of them are 4th-round picks. And get back imagine a 4th-round pick in Patrick Queen for like Miles Jack, and James Robinson. Like that type of trade or something like that. It doesn't have to be. We could take out Patrick Queen and say 2 4th-round picks for James Robinson.
It's not bad. Not bad.
Would that? I mean, I think he not only is he a really good pass catcher, but he is a player that can make explosive plays in the run game. I feel like he would be a guy that would be the second best option to trade for. My favorite guy to trade for would be Ronald Jones. Last year of his deal, no longer really a featured back in Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay doesn't really want to trade him. But if the Ravens blew them away with an offer, I think that he would be great. But James Robinson, very solid player that the Ravens could absolutely use. What do you think about James Robinson?
I mean, James Robinson, what is he? Back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher, correct?
I think he's probably on pace for back-to-back. I mean, he was a rookie last year, but I'm pretty sure he rushed for 1,000 last year.
Okay.
Like the first ever undrafted rookie to rush for 1,000 yards in his rookie year or something like that. He's at 460 this year, so he's definitely on pace for 1,000.
My whole thing is, I know we do actually need a solid running back, someone that can be serviceable. The thing is, I don't feel like the running back, if we get a young guy that, that's still healthy, that still can, make that boost, I don't think they're going to understand like, hey, you're probably just going to be here for the rest of the year. They're going to feel like you're like, hey, I brought this team here. I did this for the team. Let's talk a little extra. So I mean, we definitely got to put that in perspective, because I mean, we bring a guy in, then the room is going to get even crowded, because you get Gus back, you get JK back. Unfortunately, he's listed as a running back, but you get Justice Hill back as well. I know he's going to be a special teams guy, but still, we got to think about those things. I mean, I would love to bring in a running back, but we got to think about long term. So I mean, if it was like a guy that was maybe like older, but still serviceable, I'll be okay with it. That's like better than the 3 older guys that we got, but I want to do that to a younger guy, only for the simple fact, running backs are so inexpensive. I know I'm using the wrong word. Sorry, Ravens fans. Right now, back in the day, growing up, running backs used to be valued, used to be loved. I mean, the only team that's really valuing their running back right now is maybe Tennessee in the whole league right now. But I don't know. I'm kind of iffy about that. I will find a mid-tier guy, that could definitely flourish in this offense, but not a, someone that could be like a big star. I would actually try to reach out to the young man that played for Cleveland.
D'Ernest Johnson. Yeah, I think it was an Ebony Bird article today.
Yeah.
And it talked about the 3 running backs that the Ravens should trade for. And D'Ernest Johnson was on that list. And I mean, that dude balled out on Thursday Night Football against the Broncos. I mean, I started him in fantasy. I was very excited for that play. But he's definitely somebody that the Ravens could give a look at. And this is a really interesting question that I see from Eric, who says, in hindsight, did we give up Orlando for cheap? Let's revisit this Orlando Brown Jr. trade. And I'm going to pull up the exact trade so that I don't get anything wrong, because I believe the Ravens basically traded the pick that became Creed Humphrey and Orlando Brown Jr. for Odafe Owe and some other picks, but I'm going to try and pull up the exact trade so then I have the exact numbers. Okay. All right, so the Chiefs got Orlando Brown Jr., Nick Bolton, so that was not Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, and a 6th-round pick that hasn't been used yet. Ravens get Adafe Away, Ben Cleveland, Sean Wade, 4th round, and then a future 4th and a future 5th. We traded Sean Wade. Ben Cleveland hasn't played. Adafe Away, though, has been an absolute stud. So what do you think? Do you think it's a how did EDC do?
Everything that's happening right now, I'm kind of torn. I feel like we may have pulled the trigger a little too fast, or Orlando Brown. EDC has a lot of magic. I know he's the type of guy like, hey, if a player is unhappy in the organization, he would do his best to to help him, get the best opportunity. I mean, we did it with Hayden Hurst, and and we did it, and we just did it with Orlando Brown Jr. But I mean, right now, I don't think we thoroughly assessed the situation with Ronnie Stanley. I mean, granted, I know he got the surgery. I know he worked his tail off to get back in, to the starting roster in week 1. But free accidents happen, and once you get one injury, sometimes your durability is not the best. Right now, we could use his help a whole lot. I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, he's not the most agile, but if he gets a good step on you, he'll block you. He'll cover you up for just enough so Lamar can get by, or the running back can get by. And right now, for the past two games, Duffy has been quiet. He's been meeting his match. Slater, rookie on rookie. Slater pretty much had him gobbled up. Cincinnati he whiffed a couple tackles with Joey B. I mean, he literally had him in his grasp. And even with that offensive line, he didn't have. He's not. He's still a raw. He's still a raw developmental talent with a high ceiling. The only thing is, can we really make him a pass rusher? Because right now, we don't have a true pass rusher other than Justin Houston.
Yeah, I think for this year, if the Ravens are looking at this trade, did they succeed in becoming a better team for 2021, 2022? I think they lost. However, in the long haul, I think the Ravens absolutely won the trade because Orlando Brown Jr. this year has not been that great for Kansas City. Now that they're looking at it like it was always thought like, oh, they're going to re-sign him. He hasn't looked good for them. So there's a chance that they legitimately just don't re-sign him to that extension that everybody expected him to get with Kansas City when making that trade. And so they're basically losing out on a 1st-round pick. But the Ravens this year, they're missing out on that offensive line so much. Yes, Adafe Away has made some key plays for them. I don't want to take that away from his importance to this team so far. But the offensive line has been the downfall in both the Ravens' losses. You can clearly point the offensive line, more specifically, the offensive tackles played atrociously in those losses.
Anytime your tackles are in the backfield with your quarterback, that's a problem. And it's happening every damn game. I mean, hell, Patrick McCarry, I give it to McCarry. He's holding his own, but still, you still see these guys in the backfield, and it's clogging up the lanes for Lamar to even run. And Lamar is staying in the pocket way too long to try to throw the ball. He has to just get out. He has to get out, or he will get hurt.
I see somebody ask how McCarry is playing in comparison to Orlando Brown Jr. this year. So McCarry's PFF grade's a 71.1, 2 sacks allowed, 2 penalties. I'll look up Orlando Brown Jr.'s grade. I'm pretty sure it's pretty low, but let's see here. Orlando Brown Jr. is at a 70.9 with 3 sacks allowed and 4 penalties. So been really about the same, if not a little bit better. But at the same time, remember, Macari's playing with Lamar Jackson. The Ravens throw the ball a little bit less than the Chiefs. Lamar's better at avoiding pressure than Patrick Mahomes is. So very similar performance this year so far. So it's just Villanueva struggling. It's just Ronnie Stanley being out. Those types of things is why we need that play, because the issue is in previous years, he was so good for Baltimore that maybe it's the scheme fit that's so great for Baltimore
Yep.
and his career. Like maybe he just isn't a good fit in Kansas City for what they're trying to do, whereas he fit perfectly with Baltimore and what we were trying to accomplish. But luckily, the Ravens signed an offensive tackle today, Cedric Ogbuehi, I believe is how you pronounce it. I could be completely incorrect, but could be a guy that they bring in. He's expected to be signed from the practice squad to the 53-man roster probably before the Vikings game. They just wanted to get him into practice as soon as possible. But I see Christopher says it's easy to blame the tackles for the pressure, but really it is a lot of internal pressure. Look at all the jump passes Lamar has to throw because he can't step up. Yeah, I mean it's not just the tackles. Obviously, a lot of times the edge rushers are the ones that get the credit because they finish with the sack because they're the faster guys and everything. They get around. But yeah, it has been Lamar's been trying to step up in the pocket to scramble to basically play like Michael Vick, where steps back in the pocket, nobody's open, sprint up the middle of the field. And there's been a lot of times, not only where he's like the guys are shedding blocks, but where literally the offensive linemen are tripping Lamar Jackson. How many times this year have we seen Lamar get tripped by an offensive lineman when he's trying to take off?
They look clueless when it's like, okay, my quarterback's running. Just go forward and block someone that's in the opposing jersey. Like, come on, man. Just lay your body on someone.
Absolutely. I mean, we're just it's so frustrating. Offensive line play is just one of those things where almost any other position you can fix midseason, even quarterback, you can go out and get somebody if you feel like, oh, we really need to contend. You can trade for a guy. You can't trade for
not with O-line.
an O-lineman. Every other position you can trade for. I guess not kicker, but you can just bring in a new kicker and have a chance at them being better.
Yeah.
So, like, it's probably the worst spot. And then you have to wait for the draft. And drafting O-linemen, if you can't develop them, it's not going to work out. And the Ravens have been good at developing tackles. They've not been good at developing interior linemen at all.
Honestly, I feel like Ben Cleveland and Tyree Phillips could be the future. If we get a solid right tackle and Ronnie Stanley comes back healthy and we get another swing tackle.
Ooh, this is a great point by Christopher. Says most of the offensive line was not available to practice this offseason. That looked okay. That's very true. And remember, no player on this offensive line has played with the guy that they're playing next to ever in their career. So that's very true. That's a good point. Howard brings up a great point. It always comes back to the money.
Usually, but the money probably was usually the Super Bowl year too, though, Howard.
Every time it's like, oh wow, the Ravens they got it. Then you look at they're one thing away. Oh, but they don't have money. There's no money this year because Earl Thomas is owed money. And we are just waiting. Also, if you guys didn't know, Mark Ingram got traded today to the New Orleans Saints. So shout out to Mark Ingram. He actually gets to play for a good team and get some opportunities.
And Alvin Kamara is happy to have his big brother back too. So
absolutely. I think anybody would be happy to get Mark Ingram on their team. I don't think anybody that's ever played with Mark Ingram has ever not liked him.
Dude's a wholesome guy, man. You know, he just brings good energy, good vibes wherever he at. For real.
Absolutely. Dapper asks, do you think Cedric Ogbuehi will help? I think so. I think it will help with the depth. I don't think he's going to come in and, dominate at right tackle if he ends up having to play some games because of the Makari injury. But former first-round pick, he's had some highly graded PFF seasons in his career. Nothing crazy, but he's had above 70s and everything like that. Hasn't played a ton in recent years, but he has gotten out there. And at this point, it's about getting guys that are experienced playing the position.
Absolutely.
And
We need
he's
the
the
help.
least
We need all
experienced.
the help we can get at this point. So yeah, if he keep his man, if he can hold his man for 3 seconds, I'm cool with that.
And also, one of the benefits is he's coming from Seattle. Seattle's got a particular quarterback named Russell Wilson, who is notorious, one of the best in NFL history when it comes to evading pressure, keeping the play alive, running around. And it's very difficult to block for Russell Wilson because you always have to know, like, is he running? Is he just scrambling out to the side? Like, all these other things are happening, and it's very difficult to play offensive line for him. So he's used to playing that with that type of Lamar Jackson player because it's difficult to block for Lamar. And so, like, that's kind of the biggest thing that I recognize with him. But does anybody else have any last questions before we kind of wrap up the stream or anything like that? We typically do like shorter streams on Wednesday nights, and I know Joshua has to go at some point. So if you got to go,
Yeah, I'm
just
about to
head
head
out.
out
It's all
now.
good. All right, no worries. You can head out.
All right, family. I'll talk to y'all. I mean, are we I guess we can stream Sunday, or how you
we
feel
may
about
stream
that?
Sunday. We'll see. There's a chance we could stream Sunday. Depends on if y'all want to stream on Sunday. We can try and stream on Sunday, but maybe we'll stream Sunday night or something. I don't know. We'll see. But
All right.
take
All right,
care.
y'all.
All right. I can answer a couple more questions. Oop, don't want to add that one. Shout out to Friar Talk Podcast. Chris Reed asks, man, I gotta sit up again. Okay. I have to tilt my chair in a really weird way to sit up. Chris Reed says, I got a question. What's one player you think we need to trade for, or somebody you wish we would pull the trigger on? I'm gonna say Ronald Jones. I really think of all the players that the Ravens could get, like, I know that the Buccaneers have said that they don't want to trade him. The Giants said they didn't want to trade Odell, and 2 weeks later they traded Odell because they got an offer that they really liked. If the Ravens give the Buccaneers an offer that they like for Ronald Jones and he comes to Baltimore, he is an explosive running back that churns his legs. Like, I don't think he would come into the Ravens and average 5-6 yards a carry because the offensive line isn't amazing. However, he would still be able to have some of those runs that we haven't had this year because it's only been Lamar Jackson being able to run the football. And I know GMN Stretch says, should we trade for Mack? I would be okay with trading for Marlon Mack. I think Ronald Jones would be a little bit better, but both of them are on one-year deals, very cheap, very inexpensive, that could then leave in the offseason. Because if Ronald Jones came to Baltimore and balls out, he could get a massive contract somewhere else. If Marlon Mack comes to Baltimore, balls out, he can get a big-time contract with another team. Because playing with Lamar Jackson, playing with the Ravens rushing attack, you're going to get good numbers. And those guys are going to be much better than the current players that we have. So I would say Ronald Jones. Now, there are young players that I really love. Somebody mentioned Josh Allen earlier in the stream. I love Josh Allen. If we could somehow trade for Josh Allen, I just think that's a little unrealistic because the Jags are rebuilding. He's a very good young core piece to have. I don't expect him to be like available for trade, but if the Ravens were able to pull off a trade for a young edge rusher like that, then that would be the guy. But I don't know anybody off the top of my head that's like available as an edge rusher, because anytime any edge rusher shows promise as a young player, you don't want to trade them because everybody understands the value of edge rushers in the NFL. But I don't know. Anybody in the chat, do you guys have any guys that you think the Ravens should absolutely go for, or is that it? I feel like that's pretty good. Thanks everybody for coming into the stream, asking some good questions, talking about some good stuff. Joshua and I try and stream on Wednesday nights. It just works better with my schedule, and I don't think it conflicts with any other Raven streams or anything like that. Good midweek kind of discussion. So thanks everybody for joining. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Like the stream if you like the stream. And I will see all of you again tomorrow with a brand new video.